Every message you send today is either private or it isn't, and you probably don't know which. Ever wonder what actually stands between your texts and anyone who wants to read them? Today, I'll explain encryption like you're 5 years old. By the end, you'll understand how it works, why governments want to break it, and why that fight is happening right now, directly affecting you. So let's start with a scenario. Imagine you want to pass a note to your friend across the classroom. You write, "Meet me at the park at 3 p.m., fold it up, and slide it down the row. But here's the problem. Every single person in that row can open it, read it, and copy it before passing it along. The teacher can read it, the kid who hates you can read it, and anyone with access to that row sees exactly what you wrote. That's the internet without encryption. Every message travels through servers, routers, and cables. Every note it passes through could technically read it. We're talking your internet provider, the app company, and anyone on the same public Wi-Fi where you're doing your online banking right now. Studies suggest the average message passes through over a dozen different systems before it reaches its destination, and each one is a potential interception point. But what if you scrambled the words into a code only your friend could decode? Everyone else still gets the note and can still open it, but all they see is total gibberish, completely unreadable and utterly useless. That's encryption, and the math behind it almost sounds like cheating. Here's how it actually works. When you send an encrypted message, your device runs it through a mathematical algorithm. That algorithm scrambles it using something called a key, basically a massive random number. The person receiving it has a matching key that unscrambles it. Without that key, the scrambled message is computationally impossible to crack. Not hard, not inconvenient, but truly impossible with current technology. To put that in perspective, cracking a modern 256-bit encryption key by brute force would take longer than the current age of the universe. Your message is just noise to anyone who intercepts it. Now here's where it gets interesting. There are two main flavors of encryption, and they work very differently. The first is symmetric encryption. Same key locks it, same key unlocks it, and both sides hold a copy. Think of it like a padlock, where you and your friend both have identical keys. It's fast and efficient, but there's a serious problem. How do you get the key to your friend without someone intercepting it? If you're sending the key over the same insecure internet, you've already lost. So the internet mostly uses the second type, asymmetric encryption. And this one is genuinely kind of beautiful. You get two keys, a public key and a private key. Your public key is like your home address. Anyone can have it. Someone uses your public key to lock a message for you. But here's the twist. Only your private key can open it. The public key can lock, but it cannot unlock. You keep the private key only on your device and it never travels anywhere. So even if someone intercepts the locked message, they can't open it. Only you can. This is what's happening every time you see that little padlock in your browser. Your bank, your email, your shopping cart. All using this system constantly without you touching a single thing. And this is what end-to-end encryption means. When a messaging app says end-to-end encrypted, like Signal or WhatsApp with its default settings, the message is locked on your device before it leaves. It's only unlocked on the recipient's device. The company running the app in the middle, they can't read it. Technically, mathematically, they cannot. Even if a government shows up with a legal order saying, "Hand over those messages," the company genuinely has nothing to give. They have scrambled noise. Just noise. Which is exactly why we need to talk about governments. For most of modern history, if a government agency got a warrant, they could go to a company and say, "Hand over the messages," and the company would. Phone records, emails, chat logs. It was inconvenient, but the access existed. Encryption ended that. Not because encryption broke anything. It just made the thing governments were already doing impossible to continue at scale. And that shift made a lot of powerful people extremely uncomfortable. Here's the argument you'll hear from governments. And it's worth understanding because it's not completely stupid. They say encryption protects criminals too. Terrorists coordinate on encrypted apps. Child exploitation material gets shared in encrypted channels. Drug trafficking happens in messages nobody can trace. If we can't see anything, we can't stop anything. That argument is real. Those things actually happen. But, and this is the plot twist most people don't see coming, here's what governments are actually proposing as the solution. A backdoor. A special key held by the government that can unlock any encrypted message when legally required. Sounds reasonable, right? A master key. Only for the good guys. Only with a warrant. Here's the problem. There is no such thing as a backdoor only the good guys can use. If you build a backdoor into an encryption system, mathematically, architecturally, you have weakened the encryption. That backdoor is code. It's a vulnerability. And every hacker, every foreign intelligence agency, every criminal organization in the world will spend every available resource trying to find and exploit it. Because that backdoor doesn't just open for the FBI, it opens for whoever finds it. The encryption community isn't being stubborn about this. They're being correct. You cannot build a lock that only good people can pick. That's not an opinion. That's math. That's the core of the fight. Governments want access. Cryptographers say access and security cannot coexist. One of them has to give. And here's the part that's happening right now in real time while most people aren't paying attention. France and the EU have pushed legislation requiring messaging apps to build in those backdoors. The UK's Online Safety Act created provisions that could force exactly this, compelling companies to scan encrypted messages before they're sent. In the US, there have been multiple attempts to mandate backdoors. Most defeated, but not all. Apple famously resisted FBI pressure in 2016 to build a backdoor into iOS, arguing that creating it for one case would make it impossible to contain. Each time one of those laws passes, the math doesn't change. The hackers don't stop. Foreign intelligence agencies don't go home. What changes is whether your messages are still protected from them. That's it. That's the whole trade. Here's something most people don't realize. The encryption protecting you right now isn't legally required. Companies chose to implement it. Engineers fought to keep it. In some countries, strong encryption is actively restricted. And in those places, the people most at risk aren't criminals. They're journalists, protecting sources, activists, organizing protests, abuse survivors trying to leave dangerous situations without being tracked, ordinary people who assumed private meant private. So think back to that classroom for a second. The note analogy did its job earlier. But here's what it doesn't capture. The people trying to open your note aren't just nosy classmates. Some of them are governments with legal authority. Some are hackers with financial motivation. Some are foreign intelligence agencies with geopolitical reasons to know everything about you. Encryption isn't a lock on your diary. It's the infrastructure that makes private communication possible at all, for everyone, at every level, simultaneously. That's how your bank keeps your money safe. That's how hospitals protect your records. That's how lawyers keep client conversations confidential. Remove the math, and none of those protections survive. They're all running on the same system. The government's pushing for backdoors aren't wrong that encryption creates blind spots for law enforcement. That's real, but weakening the encryption doesn't just open those blind spots to the FBI. It opens them to everyone with the skill to find the door. You don't get a world with backdoors only good people use. You get a world with a permanent vulnerability in the infrastructure that holds your financial life, your medical records, and your private conversations together. A single exploited backdoor in a widely used system could expose hundreds of millions of people simultaneously. Not as a theoretical risk, but as an engineering certainty. So here's the question I want to leave you with, and I actually want to know what you think. If a government could guarantee the backdoor was perfectly secure and only accessible with a valid warrant, would that be a reasonable trade? Or is the real problem that no such guarantee is mathematically possible, and anyone promising one is either lying or doesn't understand what they're promising? Drop your answer below, because where this fight goes next depends entirely on how many people actually understand what's at stake.